My name is Jackie Palfi, and this is the Cycle of Success podcast. I am certain that you can make life more than just a living. You can achieve more by doing less. My mission is to help you create abundance in all areas of life without you burning out. So what are you waiting for? All we have is right now. Hi, Rikke. I am so excited that you're here on the podcast. I have been wanting to do this since forever. I think it's been months since I asked you, and then things just came in between and we didn't get it to work. For everyone listening, Rikke is my absolute best friend. We've been best friends for 12, 13
years.
Yes. And Rikke is an amazing human being who I want everyone to hear from because she has traveled across the world. She lives in Kenya right now because of love. She fell in love with a man from Kenya. And actually, Rikke, before we started this podcast, I was thinking back 8 years ago when we traveled South America together. We did that for 4 months. And we were so, what's the word for it? Not restless, but thoughtless?
Free.
we had no worries. And then look at us now, what serious lives we're living. But we'll get into all that. Before we do that, I would like you to just introduce yourself very quickly to everyone, and then we'll start our conversation.
Okay, well, as Jackie was saying, my name is Rikke. I'm from the same little town in Denmark as she is. So that's where we kind of met, went to high school together. Then after that, I moved to Copenhagen, where I studied for 6 years. I've lived in Copenhagen 7 years, although I think I've been out of Copenhagen for about 3 years in total. And I finished my master's degree in African Studies in January 2020. And during that education, I actually came to Kenya in 2018 for the first time to do an internship with a local NGO here that works with combating human trafficking. And that's the first thing that I fell in love with about Kenya was just the Nairobi, the city, the coast, the mountains. There's so much to do here. So actually, before I met my current partner, I just fell in love with the country even. Before I met him, I was very sure that I was going to come back to Kenya to live for a couple of years, to work and just explore the country because it's so beautiful. And then, yes, you said I met a man who I fell in love with and who I'm still very much in love with. And now I live here. I've been here for almost a year. In March, it will actually be a year. Yeah.
And just a fun fact to everyone, her man or boyfriend or partner, what you call it, is actually also called Rikke.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember
we're also named partners.
I remember, tell everyone about the first time you met and where you guys actually introduced yourselves to each other.
Oh, God. Yeah, well, it is a funny story. We were both at this bar, very popular bar in Nairobi called Jay's, a huge place. And suddenly I see this very handsome guy walking very timidly, intimidating towards me. And I was like, who's this guy? And he comes and he's just like, what's your name? I was like, hi, I'm Rikke. What's your name? And I was quite drunk. And then he goes, what? And I was like, I'm Rikke. What's your name? He's like, Rikke. And then it goes on because I couldn't understand what he meant. I was like, no, that's my name. I'm asking for your name. He's like, yeah, Rikke. I'm like, come on, dude. So it ended up with him actually showing me his ID. And that's where I could tell the letters. So we are one letter apart in our names. So that's quite funny. And then since then, it, just worked out.
That's amazing. So one of the biggest reasons that I invited you on to the podcast is, you inspire me. And what I really feel like you demonstrate to the whole world is that I'm a huge believer that you should go after what feels right to you, what makes you come alive, what makes you feel fulfilled. And there's no right and wrong for anyone. It is about what you would love. And, as you made the decision to not only to move to another country, but move to another culture and be together with a man from another culture, you had many opinions around you, but still you followed what you knew would fulfill you. So let's maybe talk a little bit about that. Like, what do you think was the biggest challenge for you to actually follow what felt like your dream?
I think what's important to say about me first is that I'm a huge fan of the unknown. Like I just love adventures and exploring. So I think for me, living in Copenhagen for 7 years, I love the city. I really do. And I love having my friends around me, my family close by. But I was also like, in my heart, I was like, okay, I'm so ready to go out and explore more. And then having Rikke here, finishing my degree, that really gave me a lot of freedom. And being so lucky as we are in Denmark to have government support throughout our whole school education, I've been able to save up money also working on the side. So I really had the opportunity to travel back and forth between Denmark and Kenya. And although I met, as you said, I met a lot of different opinions, whether it was a good idea or not to just move my life to Kenya. And what I was saying the whole time to people who was kind of going against that idea was that, listen, I still have my apartment in Copenhagen. If everything fails and this is not working out, I can always come back home. Like I didn't see it as an all or nothing. It was more like, let me go try it. Let me see if this works out. And if it doesn't, I can always come back home. I didn't feel like it would be a huge consequence if it didn't work out here, because I felt like my base was still in Denmark. Yeah, so I landed here, I think early March last year, right before the Corona hit Kenya, I think actually a week prior to that. So it was definitely very challenging in the beginning because I think Kenya shut down late March or mid-March. They shut down the whole country. They were very, very strict in the beginning, much more than in Denmark, for example. They introduced masks. In March, they introduced a curfew from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. And everything was just closed, all workspaces, bars, restaurants, gyms, whatnot. So that meant that I couldn't find a job. And a lot of people back home were like, you're really going to stay there? And what if it's like going to be very unsafe for you to stay? Why don't you come home? But in that moment, I just felt like, no, you know what? I made the decision to come to Kenya, to start a life here. And that just means that that's for good or for bad. And that was a bad situation, but we made it work. Yeah.
Because I already have my next question, but before I dig into that, there is one thing that you said in the beginning, that you're very adventurous and you like the unknown, which I believe is not for everyone, but if somebody would love to experience that, it could be for everyone because it's a mindset thing. What I feel like you do there is to focus on what could go well instead of what could go wrong. And if it goes wrong, well, okay, then we learn from it and we'll try again something else that feels good as well. And I feel too many people are scared of that, that part of what if it goes wrong, and they don't even try. So even though you have this trade naturally, I think it's super inspiring, and just remembering that everybody could actually take on that kind of mindset.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a good point also, because as you say, yes, it comes very natural to me, but it's also something that I'm aware of nurturing in a way. For example, after I finished my bachelor's degree in, when was this? That must be 2017. So I was maybe 24, 25 or something. And after that, I gave myself a trip to Spain for a week, solo travel. And I was a bit scared going. I was like, oh my God, I didn't speak that well Spanish. I understood some, but I didn't speak it that well. And I just flew there alone. I was in Madrid for 4 days. And then I flew down to Malaga for 3 days. And it was awesome. I had so much fun. Like I met so many people. I just went out and explored the city on my own. And that's something that I also still try and challenge myself to do, to just do stuff on my own. Also, Ricky, for example, has a job where he's away quite often. Right now, he's away for 3 weeks, which means I have a lot of time on my hands to do things solo. So going to restaurants on my own to eat, or just exploring on my own. I think that's a really important thing to do in life.
Yeah, definitely. And whether it's through traveling or other things, it is the stretch that makes you grow. If you stay in your comfort zone, results or things in your life will never be different. So that's very inspiring. The next thing that came to me was, as you said, that Corona hit and things were challenging, and there was a part of you saying, should I go back now, or are we going to go through this? Let's dig a little bit more into it, because it was more challenging than just Corona. Like you were in a circumstance with actually living in a complete new culture with your partner's parents, who are seeing things completely different than from where you are from, and having to accustom to that, and also showing respect without losing yourself was also a very challenging time for you. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting part of time where I was here for sure. So as I was saying, it was impossible for me to find work because the country just simply shut down. Ricky was also out of, he didn't work for 4 months. He didn't lose his job, but he didn't work for 4 months, which meant that we had absolutely no income, because I couldn't take my dowping. I couldn't take that with me to Kenya. So
just for everyone, it's the support that you get from Denmark when you have no job.
Yeah,
right?
It's a private initiative, but yeah. So I didn't have an income. Ricky didn't have an income. So there was really no other solution than to stay with his parents. We had been looking at some apartments, and we were ready to move in April. But yeah, it just wasn't doable. So yeah, I ended up living with his family for 7 or 8 months, which was definitely a big challenge for me, especially because I come from a whole other culture. One of Ricky's best friends also lived with us. But I think it was different for him because, first of all, he's from the same culture. He's also Kenyan, same age as Ricky. And then he's a man. So for me to live there, I had a few, not discussions, but I had a few episodes where I didn't completely agree with the parents. And I was also kind of not told off, but I was sat down with the mom, and she was explaining to me, like, we don't do it like this in our culture. And for example, telling me about being more respectful to Ricky. And I didn't understand what she meant. I was like, but I am super respectful towards him. I love him. Like, he's the person in the world I respect the most. But they had caught on to a few little things that I think is just a dynamic, also even in the different generation. They're from a different generation than us. So that had changed. And then Ricky has also traveled a lot. So we just had a different dynamic, him and I, than they had. And I think that they want the best for us. So they think that we should be like them. So that was one thing, that you constantly had someone like looking at your relationship and how are you together. And, we lived with them in the same house, but we kind of had our own little apartment on the side. But we had dinners together every day. We had a lot of wine like together. So it was also a nice time. It's not to say that it was all bad, because I really love his parents and his brothers. And we had a really, really good time together. They have a quite a big compound, so we played badminton and we did like a lot of workouts in the garden. So that was definitely a thing that I had to accustom to, more like their beliefs and their traditions. but Ricky and his friend were very good in like teaching me or explaining to me that in African customs, you just kind of nod and smile and agree, and then you go on and you do your own thing. So that was just something I had to get used to. Instead of speaking my mind and instead of kind of defending my own actions, I would just be like, yeah, okay, yeah, yes, definitely, I understand. I'll do that from now on. Yeah.
Yeah. And just back to, you having a good time, even though it was challenging. I remember we had so many conversations where you just, told me about how lovable they are and what a good atmosphere and how much you actually appreciate being able to stay there and that they call you their daughter. So, that's just a very warm way of being compared to many other cultures. But just also what you just said, I remember that being, the biggest change for you, that coming from a culture in Denmark where we have since we were a child been trained to like speak our mind and having discussions without having to agree to each other. That is the way we were raised. So getting into a new culture where you have to do completely the opposite, it is something you have to accustom to. And I just remember we talked so much about that the most important part is the way you are with Ricky, right? What you like, the way you talk with him and what you agree about. So how do you feel like that has been between the two of you? Do you feel like it has been challenging as well in terms of different cultures, or has that been more easy?
Yeah, it's so interesting actually that you phrase the question like that, because for me, it's definitely a culture thing. A lot of people often ask me, how is it being in an interracial relationship? Because Ricky is a Black guy. And I don't know, like, I don't have anything much to say to that, but definitely when it comes to how is it being in an intercultural relationship, that has a lot of stuff to be said. There's a lot of stuff to be said for that. Luckily for me, Ricky he's well educated. He's traveled a lot. He's lived abroad for 7 years. So he has a very open mindset. And in a lot of ways, we do resemble each other, or how to say, we're a lot alike. We like the same things. We like the ocean. We like water sports. We like hiking. We love working out together, going on long bike rides or whatnot. But that said, there's definitely also some things that are different because of growing up in different cultures. For example, we've had the discussion a lot about how are we going to raise our children. And I just remember the first time it was brought up, Ricky was very like, no, but you see, I've been disciplined and I haven't been harmed by that. So I'm definitely going to do that with my kids. And I grew up in a society where that has been completely banned since about when I was born. So I'm just really against disciplining kids in a physical way. I think there are a lot of other ways that you can do that. That's one thing. Then another thing that also really bothers me is time. And people always laugh at me here because they're like, well, what do you expect? You came to Kenya. You can't expect people to be on time. And it's a fair point. I chose to come here. But man, I feel so disrespected when people don't keep time, when they're the ones who are like, okay, we're going to come over by 1 and invite people over at 1 for lunch. And then lunch is not had till 4. Like, I'm starving. I want to do other things. I just feel like I just wasted 3 hours just sitting like, where's the lunch? Like, it was supposed to be 1. Yeah.
Yeah, and there in Denmark, we're very on time. We're 5 minutes earlier, if anything. But another interesting conversation that we have actually had before is that, of course, there are these different cultures between the two of you, but this kind of culture difference you can actually find between two Danes as well, right? We had we have a friend, another good friend who's been in a relationship where his parents, the partner's parents, is from a cultural setting where they're very open and tell their opinion and, very stepping over each other's boundaries, where in our friend's family, it's been more inward, not really saying things out loud. And what we have talked about, you and I, is that cultural difference, even though both people grew up in Denmark, can be as different, right? So what I find is interesting is that just because Rikke is from Kenya, you get questioned about it way more than, for example, our friend did in her partnership. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, definitely. That's actually funny you mentioned that, because when I first told people back home that I had met someone and he was local from here, people did not seem happy for me. Like they were just like, okay, so how's that gonna work? And I was asked also about like, so are you going to like be paying for him stuff? And that kind of created a response within me, like, no, of course, like no, definitely not. Like it's a very equal relationship. Like we come from the same backgrounds, if not even he comes from a better one than I do. And that became important for me after I felt that initial response towards Rikke. I became very defensive of him as a person and of us as with our relationship, which in hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have, but I was made aware the other day talking to two of our other close friends that they actually told me like, yeah, in the beginning it seemed like it was very important for you to like get out that he's from a good family and that you lived a really good life with him. And I was like, yeah, obviously, because people were so against it. So obviously I became very defensive about it. And also with, I think, with the whole prejudices, what that's called, that are towards Africa and African people. I think in the beginning I was very like, this is really not what it's like. I wish you could understand it. You just have to meet him. But also when I say that, that's even also a bit offensive. Like, oh, you just have to meet him. No, people just have to like put aside that and understand that in in Africa, there are also classes, like different classes of people. It's not all what people see in the TV with hunger and civil wars and whatnot. Of course, that's also a part of Africa and Africa's history and Africa's not culture, but the history that they're living right now. But that's just not part of Rikke or Rikke's family or our life. And I wish that people could kind of separate those two.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, I've thought about this a lot, that very often people don't separate it or don't think further about it because they're never faced with it and they're never, being asked to change their patterns of thinking, which is why I also hope that this episode and going into this conversation can spark something in people's understanding about things we don't know in the world and just stay open and curious about how things actually function and know that we don't know everything. We don't have this I know everything already mentality, and instead of that, just engage with life with curiosity and wanting to learn. And openness, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
So that is definitely my wish with sharing your story. What about, because you also had Rikke here, and once everybody met him, they of course fell in love with him because he's so loving. What are some things that he has said about what he noticed with the cultural differences?
Yeah, Rikke is a very interesting guy. He really doesn't look for things like, for example, racist comments or just the looks that you would get as a Black man, maybe in the city that we're from, which is like a very small town. He just doesn't look for it. And if something happens, he sees it in a positive way. He's like, but people are just curious. And it takes a lot for him to say that someone has been racist towards him, or even when I told him how some of my family members reacted to finding out that I was dating a Black guy, he was like, yeah, but it's like they're from a different generation, they're ignorant. And for me personally, I find that like to be a bit of an excuse. Like we live in 2021 now. There shouldn't be people who view Black people as less. That's like, that shouldn't be part of the time that we're living now. But I think for Rikke, he doesn't dwell on such things. He's just like, just let them meet me, and they will accept me, they'll love me, and that's exactly also what happened. He's the greatest guy in the world, in my opinion, obviously. And when it comes to cultural things, I think he loves Denmark. He loves Danish culture. He really wants a small house in Denmark so that we can go a couple of times a year. Maybe that is in the future, but still the idea that he's open to it, and even open to moving to Denmark at some point, if we feel like it, that's really, really nice.
Yeah, he actually said, because you guys were on another podcast together a while ago, which was awesome, by the way. If anyone's interested in it, I can put it in the show notes so that they can, you can together. But there he also said that he actually, loved it, and he could imagine himself move there. So awesome. Let's see. So now you guys moved actually to your own apartment,
yes,
away from the parents. And how does the future look like right now? I know it's difficult with Corona and everything, but what are your wishes? Because I know you are planning to do something that before you moved to Kenya, you would have never imagined that that's what you would end up doing, right?
Maybe.
I mean, did you plan on doing that before? Maybe. I mean, the farming part.
Oh, the farming part. I was just like,
where are
we talking about? So yes, we moved to our own place. We have an amazing apartment right now. I'm actually sitting with the view of Nairobi skyline. Maybe I can even show. I don't know if it's going to be visible, but it's so beautiful. Yes. We have the most amazing view from our apartment. Yeah. So we moved here, and Rikke unfortunately has been gone, I think 60% of the time for work, but we're definitely very happy having our own space. Rikke was very reluctant to move out. He's a really good saver, so he couldn't see the idea of giving other people money for a place to stay. It's like, no, we're just going to stay here and live with my parents. Like, we have our own space here, and we don't pay to live here at all. But I think me having lived on my own for 7 years and coming from that, after a year, I was really ready to now get my own place. And it's been great so far. And then what you're saying with the farming. So Rikke's grandparents have a kind of a farm, like a piece of land, where it's the idea that Rikke is the one to take over that in the next few years, actually. So it's not that far out in the future, but we're both quite excited about it. It's not out of the city. It's in a very nice neighborhood of Nairobi, kind of a suburby area. So it's really cool that you can be able to live that farming lifestyle while still in a major city. So we're both excited about it. And you said, like, you said that it's something I've never imagined doing. I don't know, like, I've always kind of wanted a big space for my family. Maybe not a farm, but this is also more like a hobby thing, like growing vegetables and avocados, bananas, different things. It's not a huge farming. It's not on a big scale farming. It's not with cows and pigs and whatnot. Just a few of everything. Rikke loves animals, so he wants like a petting zoo. So he wants to get ducklings and chickens and baby cows, a bit of everything. So let's see about that, and obviously a million dogs. But no, I'm honestly quite excited about it. But for now, I also enjoy that we are still living the city life, and then let's push the farming life maybe 2-3 years out in the future. Yeah.
Sounds like a grounding thing to do, definitely, once you're ready to settle. And some great things are going to happen, I hope, within the next year, 2 or 3 in your lives, because I want to come to Kenya for a big party. Hint, hint.
Yeah. Yeah. No, honestly, I can't wait to show my friends and my family. I can't wait to show them Kenya. I can't wait to show them the life that I'm living, because of course, that's actually also why I did the other podcast with Rikke's good friend, because it was a chance for my family and friends who still hasn't met Rikke or haven't really experienced us together to hear about our life here and hear about the life that I'm living now. It was a really nice chance to do that, and now I can't wait for people to come and visit and really see what Nairobi and Kenya is all about.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so 2 last questions I have for you. The first one is, if somebody is listening to this podcast right now and, having a little dream in their heart, wanting to try out to move to a certain country or move somewhere else, and are scared. They are scared of the unknown. They have no clue how they're going to do it and if they will make it. What would you advise to these people?
First of all, I say it's completely legitimate to feel scared and to feel nervous about the unknown. I think everyone is in a way. But a way to deal with that is to do a bit of research. Like, you can always research. You can always, nowadays we have Facebook, and there are always groups of like expats in Nairobi or Danes in Nairobi, Danes abroad. There are all these kinds of different Facebook groups that you can reach out to, become a member. You can ask questions about the lifestyle in a certain country. That now that we're talking, for example, like me, about moving to another country, a different culture, I think it's a really good idea to do some research if you feel like you are scared of taking like that jump. And actually doing it, because you can learn so much from people who live there. And for example, how I can see the questions I've been asked about Kenya and Nairobi is like, oh my God, it must be so dangerous. And can you even walk in the streets? And all of these different things. So I'm like, definitely, it's legit. Some areas, it wouldn't be that safe for me to walk around, but majority of the city, I feel completely safe walking around. I go on runs, like on Sunday, I walked 10 kilometers to Rikke's parents' house. By myself. So I think that can be a big help, to talk to people who are actually doing it, who has done it, to learn from other people's experiences.
Yeah, that's a great tip, to really engage with people who has taken this same jump and how it felt for them and why it is worth doing. And also another thing I'd like to add, having done it myself to Germany, is just like you mentioned at the beginning, like I had the mindset as well, if it's not going to work out, I can go back, It's not worse than that. Then you have had an experience, you tried something out, you figured out what means something to you and what doesn't, and then you can try out different, futures. So that is definitely also something that helped me.
Yeah, for sure.
And the last question I have is something I ask all my podcast guest interviewers, and you probably already know the question. I'm going to reframe it a little bit with you. So I know you have really done a lot of volunteer work. You have learned a lot about helping others, and you've had a great impact on many people's lives and seen many people go through challenges. So imagine that all these experiences, they would disappear. Like, you would have not got any of these lessons from life, but I gave you a piece of paper and a pen, and I allowed you to, of these lessons that you've learned, to write down 3 things that you would pass on to humanity or to people on the earth to the day that you're not here anymore. What are those 3 key lessons that you would write down on this paper?
So key lessons. Mm-hmm. That I learned.
Yeah, did
from what I've done in life.
Yeah. Should I repeat the question? Is the internet bad?
Yeah, it was. You just glitched a little, but I think I got the gist of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Key 3 lessons. Trust your gut feeling. If something comes to mind and it feels right in yourself, no matter what people are telling you from the outside, like, trust your gut feeling. Like, you got you. It's okay. You got you. Definitely that. And then for me, a big lesson that I don't know if I taught myself or where I found the inspiration to do things on my own, but I just feel like that really builds character and strength, that you believe in yourself and you trust in yourself enough to do solo adventures, whether that means traveling or starting your own business like you have done, for example, or confronting someone that has hurt you in life on your own, like do something on your own. I really feel like that builds character. And then a third key lesson. Always leave people with a smile on their face. Always be kind to people wherever you are. Like we've also talked about that, having prejudices against other people because they seem foreign or they look different. Try to put that away. Try to always meet people with a good attitude and a kind face, and that will get you long in life, I believe.
I love that because, you are really one of those people. We are a group of 4 or 5 girls, and this group of friends that we have, I truly believe that we have helped each other create this mindset. And we like, you have really been a huge effect on me and how I wake up and how I speak to people. I remember it so clearly. You were working at some, what's the furniture store? Some, used furniture, used stuff store in Copenhagen. You remember?
Oh, that? Yes.
So what is that called again?
Like a thrift shop.
Yeah, something like that. And I remember I came visit you one day and you just, it was a little dark room and you just lit up the room with your smile to everyone and have a good day. And, this energy, it's just great. And you have it, and you have really affected my life a lot with that, which I believe I've taken on as well. So I love that last comment or key lesson of yours, because you are just a master of doing that yourself. So awesome.
Likewise. Wait, I actually have one more note when it comes to that. It's maybe not a lesson, but it is something I want to give out to people who maybe want to travel more or want to explore more of the world. Something that I always tell myself is that wherever I go, I need to learn how to say thank you in the local language. Yes. That also gets you so far. Like people love it when you can say thank you in their language, and I feel like it shows so much respect for the culture, for the people, that you're actually aware of where am I in the world. Yeah, maybe
and that's important as well, because that's something you can translate generally to what people like. Like people like that you're curious. They like that you ask them questions. People, what they love the most is to talk about themselves. And it makes you a very interesting person if you're curious in them. So
100%.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for being here, Rikke. I cannot wait to publish this episode. I know people will have so much value from it. Thank you for taking your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.